Your father left everything to Olivia, dear. The transfer is already complete. My mother-in-law's voice dripped with false sympathy through the phone. He always thought of her as his real daughter anyway. I gripped my coffee mug tightly, the morning sunlight streaming through my kitchen window suddenly feeling cold. My father-in-law's funeral was barely 2 weeks ago, and here was Patricia dropping this bomb on me while I was still grieving. My name is Madison Carter, and at 34, I just discovered my mother-in-law had somehow redirected my entire inheritance to my sister-in-law's account. The same inheritance my father-in-law Richard had specifically promised would help fund the children's hospital wing I'd been working towards for the past 5 years. That's impossible, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. Richard and I discussed his plans for the hospital wing just last month. He even signed the preliminary paperwork. Patricia's laugh was sharp, cutting. Oh honey, Richard changed his mind after your last visit. He realized Olivia needed the money more. After all, she's been such a devoted daughter, always by our side, unlike some people who only visit when they need something. The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. While I'd spent the last 5 years working double shifts as a pediatric surgeon and visiting Richard during every free moment, Olivia had been traveling the world on her father's dime, only showing up when she needed to replenish her bank account. I want to see the paperwork, I demanded, my professional composure kicking in. Years of handling medical emergencies had taught me to stay calm under pressure. That won't be necessary, Patricia replied smoothly. Everything's been handled legally. Olivia's already planning to use the money for her new lifestyle coaching business. Such a wonderful investment, don't you think? I ended the call without responding, my mind racing. Something wasn't right. Richard had been excited about the hospital wing, proud that I wanted to continue his legacy of helping others. He'd built his medical equipment company from nothing, always emphasizing the importance of giving back. I dialed James Morton's number with slightly shaking hands. As Richard's longtime executor and friend, he would know the truth. The line you're trying to reach is no longer in service. Strange. James had been at the funeral, looking troubled as he spoke with Patricia. I'd meant to talk to him then, but Olivia had created a scene about the funeral arrangements, demanding changes that had consumed everyone's attention. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Sorry sis, guess Daddy finally saw through your little act. Don't worry, I'll make much better use of the money than some boring hospital wing. I stared at the message, memories flooding back. Richard's proud smile when I graduated medical school. His weekly visits to my pediatric ward, bringing toys for the children. The long conversations we'd had about expanding healthcare access for underprivileged kids. None of it matched with Patricia's claim. I opened my laptop and logged into my email, searching for my last correspondence with James. 3 weeks ago, he'd sent me the draft documents for the hospital wing trust, copying Richard. The email was gone. A knock at my door startled me. Opening it, I found a young courier holding an envelope. Dr. Carter, this was to be delivered to you 2 weeks after Mr. Harrison's funeral. Time-sensitive material. The envelope bore James Morton's law firm logo. Inside was a single USB drive and a handwritten note. Madison, if you're reading this, my suspicions were correct. Patricia has been making concerning moves regarding Richard's estate. I've documented everything, including conversations that might interest you. The attached drive contains files you'll need. Be careful who you trust. James. My hands trembled as I plugged in the USB drive. Folders appeared, meticulously labeled with dates stretching back 6 months. The first audio file made my blood run cold. Patricia's voice emerged from my speakers. James, you need to adjust those documents. Richard's not thinking clearly with all these medications. Olivia deserves that inheritance, not some sanctimonious doctor who married into our family. Make it happen, or I'll have to remind you about that incident from 2019. I sat back, my mind racing. This wasn't just about the inheritance anymore. This was about justice, about honoring Richard's wishes, about exposing the truth. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Olivia. Bitevu found your precious hospital wing proposals in Daddy's study. Such a shame they accidentally ended up in the shredder. I took a deep breath, remembering what Richard always said about patients in difficult situations. Patricia and Olivia thought they had won, that I would accept their manipulation like I had so many times before for the sake of family peace. Not this time. I began copying the files from James's drive, my determination growing with each damning piece of evidence. They had no idea what was coming. After all, I wasn't just Richard's daughter-in-law. I was the woman who'd earned his respect, who shared his vision for helping others, who'd promised to continue his legacy. And I intended to keep that promise, whether Patricia and Olivia liked it or not. The truth was in these files. Now I just had to use it. I spent the next 3 days methodically going through James's files, each document and recording revealing more of Patricia and Olivia's scheme. There were emails between them discussing how to manipulate Richard's medications to keep him confused during his final weeks. Voice recordings of Olivia pressuring the hospital staff to limit my visits. Even a draft of a forged will dated just days before Richard's death. But what caught my attention was a folder labeled Original Trust Documentation, Secured Copy. Inside were scanned copies of the real documents Richard had signed, complete with notarized timestamps and witness signatures. The hospital wing wasn't just a plan. It was legally binding. My phone rang, displaying Patricia's number. I let it go to voicemail. Madison dear, her voice dripped honey-coated venom. Olivia and I are meeting with the hospital board tomorrow to withdraw Richard's pledged donation. I thought you'd want to know since you work there. Don't make this awkward by interfering. Remember, family comes first. Family comes first. How many times had she used that phrase to manipulate situations in Olivia's favor? I picked up my phone and dialed Dr. Sarah Thompson, the hospital board's chairperson. Sarah, we need to talk. It's about Richard's donation. An hour later, I sat in Sarah's office, James's files spread across her desk. Her face grew increasingly grave as she reviewed the documents. This is disturbing, she said, pausing an audio recording of Patricia threatening James. We had no idea. The board meeting tomorrow. Patricia presented it as a formal transfer of funds to their new charitable foundation. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Their new foundation. Let me guess, with Olivia as the director. Sarah nodded. They submitted paperwork yesterday. But these documents you've brought, especially the original trust agreement. Madison, this changes everything. I need your help, Sarah. Richard wanted that pediatric wing built. He spent hours with our young patients, saw how desperately we need the extra space and resources. I can't let Patricia and Olivia destroy that. Sarah's eyes hardened with determination. The board meeting is at 10 a.m. Be there. That evening, another text arrived from Olivia. Hope you're not too attached to your position at the hospital. It would be such a shame if the new foundation decided to withdraw all support. I smiled, thinking of the evidence safely backed up on multiple drives. Let them play their games. The next morning, I arrived early at the hospital, dressed in my most professional suit. Patricia and Olivia were already there, holding court in the conference room. Olivia wore designer clothes that still had tags attached. Apparently she'd already started spending her ill-gotten inheritance. Oh, Madison. Patricia's eyes widened in fake concern. This is a private board meeting. Perhaps you misunderstood. Actually, Sarah stepped in. I invited her. Shall we begin? Patricia stood, smoothing her expensive blazer. Of course. As I explained in my email, we're here to formally withdraw Richard's pledge and redirect the funds to our new charitable foundation. Olivia has some wonderful ideas for wellness retreats. Before we proceed, Sarah interrupted. We have some documents to review. She began distributing copies of the files I provided. Patricia's face paled as she recognized the trust agreement. Olivia grabbed a page, her perfectly manicured nails crumpling the paper. Where did you get these? Patricia demanded. From James Morton, I replied calmly. Richard's executor. The one you threatened and forced into hiding. He left quite a paper trail. These are old documents. Olivia jumped in, her voice shrill. Daddy changed his mind. He told me so himself. Really? I pressed play on my laptop and Richard's voice filled the room. A recording from just 3 weeks before his death. Madison, I need you to know how proud I am. This hospital wing, it's everything I hoped for. Promise me you'll see it through, no matter what Patricia and Olivia might try. James has everything documented. Patricia's composure cracked. You recorded him? How dare you? Actually, I replied, James did. After you tried to bribe him to change the trust documents. There's quite a collection here. Would you like to hear your conversation about adjusting Richard's medication schedule? Or perhaps the one where you discussed backdating the new will? The board members murmured in shock. Sarah cleared her throat. In light of this evidence, The board will not be authorizing any changes to the original trust agreement. Furthermore, we'll be launching a formal investigation into these allegations of fraud and elder abuse. Olivia stood up so fast her chair toppled over. You can't do this. That money is mine. Daddy promised. Sit down. Patricia hissed, but it was too late. Her carefully constructed scheme was unraveling. The funds, Sarah continued firmly, will remain allocated to the pediatric wing project as per Richard's legally documented wishes. Dr. Carter will continue to oversee the development as originally planned. I watched Patricia's face contort with fury. This isn't over, she spat. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I replied, standing to face her, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. I have copies of everything. Every threat, every manipulated document, every attempt to change Richard's wishes. Would you like to know what else James documented? Patricia's face went from red to white. Without another word, she grabbed her designer handbag and stormed out, Olivia trailing behind her like a petulant child. As the board meeting concluded, Sarah touched my arm. Richard would be proud of you, Madison. The pediatric wing, it's going to change so many lives. I nodded, thinking of Richard's last weeks, how despite Patricia's interference, he'd still managed to leave me the tools to fight back, to protect his real legacy. My phone buzzed one last time, another text from Olivia. You'll regret this. Nobody crosses our family. I smiled, thinking of the additional files I hadn't yet revealed, the ones that would ensure Patricia and Olivia could never interfere again. Family comes first, I whispered to myself. And Richard was my family too. 3 months after the board meeting showdown, I stood in the construction site of the new pediatric wing, watching workers install the foundation. The morning sun caught the sign at the entrance, Richard Harrison Memorial Pediatric Center, where every child matters. Patricia and Olivia hadn't gone quietly, of course. They tried everything from legal threats to social media smear campaigns. But James's meticulous documentation had proven invaluable. When their lawyer saw the evidence, he withdrew from the case immediately. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. You need to see this. Attached was a link to a local news article. Prominent socialite and daughter under investigation for financial fraud. I smiled, remembering the anonymous tip I'd sent to the financial crimes unit about Patricia and Olivia's other schemes. The ones James had uncovered involving Richard's company funds. Apparently, the hospital trust wasn't the only money they tried to manipulate. Dr. Carter, a small voice called out. I turned to find Tommy, one of my long-term patients, approaching in his wheelchair. His mother pushed him gently, smiling. Look what I found in my dad's old pictures. Tommy held up a photograph. It showed Richard kneeling beside a much younger Tommy, both of them grinning as they played with a toy stethoscope. He visited me every week when I was first admitted, Tommy explained. Said someday there'd be a special place here for kids like me. He never forgot his promise. I blinked back tears, remembering Richard's words. Sometimes the greatest legacy isn't what we leave behind, but who we trust to carry it forward. Later that afternoon, as I reviewed plans in my office, my secretary announced an unexpected visitor. James Morton stood in my doorway, looking tired but relieved. I think it's safe to come back now, he said, settling into a chair. Patricia's other victims are coming forward. She won't be able to threaten anyone anymore. Other victims? James nodded grimly. Richard suspected she'd been embezzling from the company for years, funneling money to Olivia's failed ventures. That's why he set up the hospital trust separately, with those special provisions. He knew they'd try something. He knew. I whispered. Why do you think I had all those recordings? Richard asked me to document everything. He wanted to protect you, and his real legacy. I thought about all the times Richard had insisted on reviewing the hospital plans, how he'd made sure every detail was legally secured. He'd been preparing for this all along. My phone buzzed again. An email from Olivia's private investigator, the one she hired to dig up dirt on me. I've been expecting this, Ms. Carter. Given recent developments, I feel you should know that your sister-in-law hired me to fabricate evidence against you. I've attached our correspondence. I cannot be part of such activities. My sincere apologies. Another piece of evidence for the growing investigation. Patricia and Olivia had overplayed their hand, and now their entire world was crumbling. The construction foreman called me outside to review some final details. As I stood there, Watching the pediatric wing take shape, I felt Richard's presence strongly. "We did it," I whispered. "Your legacy is safe." 6 months later, I received 2 letters. The first was from Patricia's new lawyer, requesting a settlement discussion. The second was from Olivia, postmarked from a small town where she'd apparently fled when the fraud investigation intensified. "Madison, you won. Are you happy now? Everything we had is gone. Mom's facing charges, my accounts are frozen, and all because you couldn't just let us have what we deserved. I hope you can live with yourself." I placed both letters in a folder marked Evidence and turned back to my computer, where pictures of smiling children filled the screen, future patients of the Richard Harrison Memorial Pediatric Center. Living with myself wouldn't be a problem at all. Yesterday, as I gave Sarah a tour of the nearly completed wing, she asked if I regretted how things had turned out with my in-laws. "No," I replied honestly. "Richard taught me that real family isn't about blood or marriage. It's about who you choose to become and what you leave behind." I gestured to the bright, welcoming spaces designed for healing. "This is his real legacy, and I'll always be proud to be part of it." As I left work that evening, I passed Richard's photograph in the hospital lobby. He was smiling that knowing smile of his, the one that always made me feel like he could see right through people's pretenses. "You were right," I whispered to his image. "Sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought with anger, but with patience, preparation, and truth." The truth had finally set everything right.